Hey guys, we had a number of polls that were released yesterday afternoon and into the evening. I'm going to touch on 5 in this video and some really interesting data. If you'd like to take a look at all these polls for yourself, I'll have links to them posted down in the video description. The first one is going to be a national poll, and then the other 4 are state-specific, looking at California, as well as Wisconsin, Nevada, and South Carolina. And if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter in particular, buckle up because these first 2 polls are very positive for the Vermont senator. And the maybe 2 of you guys out there who are Tom Steyer supporters that end up watching my videos, you're going to be very excited about the final 2 polls that we take a look at the tail end of this video. But some really interesting data to go over. And to start off with this national poll from Ipsos, I might be mistaken, but I believe this is the first national poll where Bernie Sanders has the outright lead by himself at the top, and he's grabbing 17% of the first choice, followed by Biden, who's at 15%. And then you have Warren there at 10%, Bloomberg at 6%, Pete Buttigieg at 5%, Andrew Yang at 3%, along with Tom Steyer at 3 percentage points, Cory Booker at 2%. And you might be asking yourself, well, why are the top options a little bit lower in this national poll than what we typically get? And that's because, for whatever reason, these Ipsos polls give the option of don't know who you're going to be voting for, and that brought in 23%. But more than likely, if they ask these individuals who you're at least leaning towards as your top option, more or less these voters would be splitting up their percentages of support among the upper tier candidates such as a Sanders, Biden, and a Warren. So that would likely push them further ahead and separate themselves even more so from the rest of the pack. And that's what we typically get in those polls where they ask the people to at least lean towards who their top option is going to be. Now, Bernie Sanders, he gained 2 points in this Ipsos poll from where he was a few weeks ago in the prior result, whereas Joe Biden fell back 3 percentage points. And then the rest of the field, not all that much in the way of change, where Warren stayed even. And then Bloomberg, Buttigieg, Yang, Steyer, and Booker each gained 1 percentage point respectively. Now, a big reason why Sanders did better in this Ipsos national poll is because he was able to tie Biden among support of Democratic registered voters. Now, if we take a look back at 2016, in states that had closed primaries, so ones where only registered Democrats could vote, those are instances where Sanders had a tougher time competing against Hillary Clinton, whereas the states that had semi-open or completely open primaries were where Sanders did a bit better, and we can see that he's leading the independents in this instance by quite a bit in that vote. But the fact that he was able to tie it up among the Democratic supporters is why he was able to gain the lead over Biden nationally in this result. And that's going to be a block of voters that Sanders needs to do a bit better with in 2020 if he's going to go on and win the nomination potentially. So now I want to go through and go over how these voters felt, who the best candidates were on these different issues before going in to the other 4 state-specific polls that I wanted to touch on here in this video. So starting off here, the best candidate on immigration, pretty competitive there at the top with Sanders at 19%, followed by Joe Biden at 18%. And actually every single policy-related issue, Sanders ended up being the number 1 choice among these voters. So we see on healthcare is where Sanders did extremely well at 28%, followed by Biden at 17%, and then Warren at 15%. And this is a good sign for the candidates that are supporting Medicare for all, because the number 1 and number 3 option in this poll are candidates that are pushing for a Medicare for all system, whereas the public option candidates like a Joe Biden grabbing 17%, Pete Buttigieg grabbing 6%, not doing quite as well in those instances. So then asked who's the best on the environment. Again, Bernie Sanders doing really well here, grabbing 26%, Biden at 15%, Warren at 12%. And actually Bernie Sanders just getting the endorsement of the Sunrise Movement. So that could possibly be another thing to help him as he's been building momentum over the past couple of months. And the voters here saying that he is the best option here on the environment. And then we take a look at the economy and jobs. Again, Sanders doing the best at 24%, followed by Biden at 18%, and then also Bloomberg there at 18 percentage points in that category. And now this is where Biden starts to do better, where they asked who is most likely to defeat Donald Trump. Biden leads that one at 29%, and then we see Sanders at 15%, Warren and Bloomberg each at 11 percentage points. And then they asked who's a strong progressive. Bernie leading this one at 26%, Warren in second at 19%, and then you have Biden there at 12%, all the other options in single digits. And can unify the Democratic Party, you have Biden at 23%, Sanders at 18%, and then a new and different voice, and this is the last question here. we see that Sanders led this one, but pretty competitive there at the top. Sanders at 19, Buttigieg at 18%, Warren at 15, Bloomberg at 13 points. So those are all the numbers that I wanted to touch on with this Ipsos poll, and very positive for the Bernie camp, given the fact that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the first national poll where he has the outright lead by himself. We'll see if this is a trend that we continue to see from Sanders in the coming weeks as we head closer and closer to those early primary and caucus states. So the next poll here that is also very positive for Bernie Sanders, it comes out of Capital Weekly from California, and Sanders propels himself into first place with 24% of support, gaining 5 points from the last result that we got out of California from this particular polling resource. Elizabeth Warren in second place at 21 points, receding back a few percentage points there. Biden very close to Warren at 20%. He was able to pick up a point. Buttigieg falling back a few points to 11%. Yang was able to gain 2 points up to 7. And this is the initial result where Bloomberg has his hat in the ring, getting 6%, Klobuchar at 5%, Gabbard at 2%, along with Tom Steyer. So again, these first two polls that I touched on, very positive signs for Sanders, leading nationally and then also leading in the largest state that has the most pledged delegates up for grabs. And that's going to be a state that's on Super Tuesday, being California. So pretty early on in the process. So now going over and taking a look at Wisconsin. And these next three polls are all state-specific from Fox News, starting with Wisconsin, a much more competitive race than what we had in the prior polling result, where Biden had an 11 percentage point lead over Sanders and a 6-point lead over Warren. A very different scenario this time around, tightening up there where Biden recedes 5 points back to 23%, Sanders gains 4 points up to 21%, and then Elizabeth Warren recedes back 9 percentage points. She's now in third place at 13, and then Pete Buttigieg at 9, Bloomberg at 7, Klobuchar at 4. And Sanders did very well in Wisconsin in 2016 against Hillary Clinton. This is an area that's going to be very important for Sanders to do well if he's going to try to go on and win this nomination. He was able to close the gap here with Biden. We'll see if this is a trend that continues or not. But again, like I said, an area where Sanders was able to find quite a bit of success and actually outperforming the polls rather significantly in Wisconsin specifically. Now going over and taking a look at Nevada, and this is where we start to get some very interesting numbers from Tom Steyer. Now, he's been pumping in tens of millions of dollars, way more than these other upper tier candidates in these early states, and it's having a positive impact, at least in these next two polls that we're going to be taking a look at. So we can see a relatively competitive race here at the top in Nevada. And Biden leading the pack at 23%, down 1 point. Also, Sanders down a point. He was at 18 in the prior result, and this one at 17. But then you have Tom Steyer gaining 7 percentage points. Maybe this is an outlier. Maybe it's a trend for Tom Steyer. We'll have to see if that's going to be the case or not. But he was at 5 points in the prior poll. In this one, he's at 12, whereas Warren continues to take these rather stark steps back, rather significantly so in a lot of these areas. So she was at 18 points. In a tie for second. Now she's in a tie for third with Tom Steyer at 12%. And then in single digits, we have Buttigieg at 6 points, Yang at 4, Booker at 3. And now to wrap things up, to close this one out, we have some numbers here out of South Carolina. And again, another Fox News poll. And very shocking here. So you expect Biden to be in first place. He recedes back 5 points from where he was in the prior South Carolina poll from Fox News, but still in a commanding first place at 36%. But then Tom Steyer, inexplicably, in second place here at 15%, up 11 points from where he was in the prior South Carolina Fox News poll. Sanders also showing a little bit more strength here. He's up 4 points. He was at 10 in this one at 14. And then Warren taking a little bit of a step back. She was at 12 points in this one at 10. And then Buttigieg at 4%. And then everyone else in the lower single digits behind him. So those were the 5 polls that I wanted to touch on here in this video. Some very positive news from the Sanders campaign as well as the Tom Steyer campaign in these last 2 polls that I took a look at. But pretty much across the board, Sanders gaining and rather significantly so, other than that Nevada poll where he was pretty much even or flat, losing just 1 point in that instance. But with the Ipsos poll, in first place all by himself in a national poll, very positive sign for Sanders. And then the biggest, most important state in terms of pledged delegates up for grabs, Sanders was able to catapult himself into first place in this Capital Weekly California result. And again, guys, if you'd like to take a look at any of these polls for yourself, I'll link them down in the video description. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, and I hope to see you guys back here for future videos.